Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Soul Creativity. Wherever you're joining us from, I'm so glad you're here this evening. I always say that, and I mean to say, because whatever time of the day it is, wherever you're at, whether you're joining us live or tuning in later, we really appreciate it. The comment section is up, so if you have a comment or question, please feel free to post it. If you're watching the show later, catching it later, go ahead and add your comments, and Lisa and I will see them. And that brings me to our guest this evening, Lisa M. Gunshore. Hi, Lisa. Thank you so much. We've been trying to arrange this for a while, so I'm so glad we're finally getting together. If you don't know, Lisa was one of the 5 women featured in my documentary, She Brings the Fire, which you can find on my YouTube channel. And if you haven't seen it yet, what are you waiting for? It's really, it, I think, inspirational and uplifting and full of hope. And you will want to catch Lisa's story. So if you haven't seen it, check it out. It has its own playlist. Below this video is Lisa's website, my website, a way to contact me. And you can always reach out by comment too if you're looking for further information. So welcome, Lisa. And we have so much to talk about tonight. I had written in my newsletter that you have so many new things going on this year, things that I've heard you talk about in the past, but it's nice to see that you're really bringing them out and you're able to work with them and you're connecting with people through them. So I'd really like to discuss some of those areas this evening because I know that I was just telling you, I feel like they're really important at this time. I feel like a lot of them are based on self care, taking care of ourselves and our families, our communities. So I'm really anxious to dive into that. And one of the areas is that you're doing a lot with culinary. And I know I have read in your postings about kitchen as a sacred space. And I'm wondering if we could open with that, if you kind of want to bring us up to date on what you're doing with that and some of your thoughts on those topics.
Yeah, that sounds wonderful. And thank you for having me. It's an honor to be here. It's an honor to be in that documentary. It is really incredible. When I watched it, I was so inspired by the other women in the documentary. So I encourage everyone to go out and watch it for sure. Um,
Thank you.
yeah, it's just amazing. And yeah, so culinary, it's funny how what goes around comes around. And I decided to go to culinary school after I graduated high school in 1996, so long ago now. And I graduated in 1998 with my associate's degree in culinary arts and kind of went on from there. And food's always been an important part of my life, both the positive and the shadow. I mean, I talk openly about food addiction in my book, Enlightenment Pie. And, I think we all have an element of medicating through food probably at this point in our society. I think it's very easy to medicate through food in a negative way. And that has really led me to self-healing through Ayurveda, which is medicine as food in a positive way, and really looking at your diet as nutrition and nourishment versus, food and things that we crave. And so, yeah, so you asked about kitchen as a sacred space, and it really stuck out to me in my Ayurveda training with the Shakti school, this idea of cooking and eating meals as a ritual, as ritual. And how does it feel to turn off your electronics at the end of your workday and be fully present and engaged with cooking your meal and sitting down with the people that you love and having a meal? I'm in fact, after the show, I'm going to go have a meal with one of my dear, dear friends. And I think looking at that is how can I be completely present with the people I'm with the food I'm with, and what foods am I choosing to put into my body? So it's really become, it's always been a passion, but it's become a catalyst now for healing.
Mhm. Lisa, on Ayurveda, I did look at that years ago, different times when I was looking into nutritional um, areas and, what was out there. And I remember a little bit like body type. And I'm wondering if you could talk about that, but also, is it a complicated thing to do? Because we're all kind of pressed for time. And I like the idea of trying to get into a different mindset when we do go into the kitchen to cook. And this might be a little bit, another little thread on that same topic, but I have a little galley kitchen. And, if you're watching TV or you're watching movie shows, oftentimes and just what you see marketed to you as well, you see these big, beautiful kitchens. I know people that feel like they really can't cook because they have a small kitchen and so I'm wondering if that's part of the mindset too, and not buying into maybe the typical narrative about what it is, to be in the kitchen. And I will say, like, I've had some parties, and my galley kitchen really never turned out to be a problem. Some of my best like parties have been when we've been like crowded in a little kitchen. So that's just kind of another area, but it comes up when I start thinking about how complicated things are, or how we make them complicated.
Yeah, it's a great question. So, in my first food frequency show, which is up on my YouTube channel and available for folks to watch, I talk about what you need to cook. And honestly, it's like 3 pans and 1 or 2 knives. And, I would say, it's nice that I have a more open kitchen than I've had ever. But for me, I've cooked in little apartment kitchens, and honestly, in Hawaii, when I lived on Maui, I had no kitchen. I had to cook so I had a microwave, which I never used. I had a little outdoor grill, and there was like a baker's rack in a side hallway with some pans on it. And so in Maui, I had no kitchen. I usually grilled on the little grill outside. And sometimes, I guess sometimes I use the microwave, but, I did my dishes in the sink in my bathroom. So you don't need a big fancy kitchen to eat healthy and to take care of yourself. And I think it's also good to be resourceful. So like when I lived on Maui, again, I went to the natural food store. So I relied on some of the pre-made salad bars and things that were available to me there. And I still do that now, to make things easy. Like when you talk about complicated, sometimes I just go to the salad bar at Whole Foods and get everything I need, and then cook the meat and make the salad dressing homemade and make my meals. So it doesn't have to be complicated. So I think small kitchens are great. I think the most important thing to me as a cook is that I have a gas stove. And that's not ideal. Like that's not available to everyone either. So I'm really grateful to have one, because it's the first time in my life I've actually had one to cook with. It wasn't in a restaurant kitchen to cook with. But yeah, size doesn't matter. And as far as Ayurveda goes, so Ayurveda can be very complex, which is why I love it. And it's very simple. And it's really about balancing the elements in the body and noticing when you're out of balance. And I've really taken to the practice of the 5 elements in Tibetan shamanism. And it's in courses available on my portal right now. And I'll be teaching more of that, because for me, I think it's more about the 5 elements, earth, water, air, fire, and space. And those 5 elements make up the doshas in Ayurveda. And in Tibetan shamanism, your imbalances, emotional and physical, come from those same 5 elements. Those 5 elements also make up the 6 tastes: bitter, sweet, salty, sour, pungent, and astringent. And so it's really about understanding the 5 elements and where you might be off kilter in your own body. Now, is it far more complex than that? Sure. Are there 1,000 Sanskrit words I've had to learn? Yes. But, to give a direct example, Vata is air and space. Well, air and space is dry, right? It's dry. And air element, if you have too much wind blowing around, right, then your skin gets dry, right? Your hair gets dry.
Mm-hmm.
And so you need to do something to counteract all of that air. So maybe you'll oil your skin to counteract all of the dryness that's happening from the air element. And that oil, that brings in the water element and some fire element. And so that is how I like to look at it. And I really think the backbone of how I'm going to teach Ayurveda and work with my own clients and patients in Ayurveda is about the elements, because it's much easier to understand that you don't have proper digestive fire. Maybe you're not really hungry. Maybe you're constipated. Maybe you don't process your food properly. And that's a lack of fire element. So it's bringing in things like fennel and cumin and, spices that are going to get those juices flowing. Or maybe it's eating some green apple 30 minutes before your meal to get your Agni or your fire kindled through the enzymes in the apple. So when you look at it through the elements, it kind of simplifies what's happening with your body. And it also allows you to eat differently, because your food is also the 5 elements. If you're very acidic and you have acid reflux and you have heartburn and you're kind of got too much fire, then you're not going to want fire in your food. You're not going to want to eat green chili and red chili and spicy hot foods, because you already have that heat. You want to eat cooling foods like more of a dairy maybe, or things like cucumber that are cooler. And so again, it's really just kind of noticing like what's happening with your elements. How do you put a fire out, right? You put it out with water. So another example is, if you need digestive fire, which we all do to digest our food, then you don't want to drink a huge glass of water when you're eating your dinner. You want to actually wait, either do it an hour before, half hour before, or you want to wait until you finished your meal and you take some sips. But you don't want to put your fire out. So these are all the little concepts with the 5 elements. And that's really what I'm integrating into my own Ayurveda practice, is the understanding of the elements and how to draw from those elements in nature and in my food to restore my body back into balance.
And it sounds like some of those, the little tips you gave us there about the water, or eating cooling foods, or if you need more fire, those are kind of simple things to do. It doesn't sound very complicated. And then it would be easy, for whoever was trying to maybe get rid of heartburn or, something else. You would notice the difference. So you would know you were on the right track. It's, it doesn't sound like it's a really complicated process, and you would never know, is this helping me or isn't it helping me? And I like that, because I've never been one to think one, way of eating fits everybody. And, so there are certain things that I will eat that I notice, they seem to agree with me more than maybe something else, but it might not be the going trend of what you're hearing. And so it seems to me like a lot of the popular diets that come out, they're always, not always, but a lot of times based on sort of one way of looking at things. And, I've always felt like, that just doesn't seem right. It seems like different people probably have different needs. And so it sounds like that's like a good process for for figuring that out. And I like working with the elements because it makes it easy.
Mm-hmm.
You said it's easier to understand maybe than some of the other things. And I'm also thinking and I think you mentioned this in working with that. It addresses when you're out of balance and you're getting back into balance. I mean, I know I'm a comfort food eater, and I often think that's a really difficult thing to overcome, because what are you going to substitute that comfort with? You don't want to, go to some kind of addiction. You don't want to do something that's worse for you. So, I'm wondering if that bringing into balance helps eliminate that. Does it make you not have that craving as much, or how do you think that works to?
Well, yeah, when you're out of balance, you tend to crave the foods that will keep you out of balance, right? And when you're in balance, you intuitively crave what you need. And what I've done recently is I've changed the word food to nutrition. So when I'm like, oh, I need to cook food for dinner, I think, oh, what nutrition am I going to prepare for dinner? Because it changes how I'm viewing what I'm doing, and it definitely creates awareness. It definitely stops. You're like, are those chocolate Mexican cookies nutrition? And maybe they are. Maybe you need dark chocolate because you need the magnesium and the copper, let's say. But you want to ask yourself, oh, is it my cycle and my moon cycle, and I'm low on magnesium and copper? I'm craving that dark chocolate. And you choose organic, fair trade,
Mhm.
local dark chocolate or cacao, and you get what you need. That's nutrition. And so it's not about like eliminating a bunch of stuff. It's more about just asking, have I put nutrition in my body today?
Mhm.
What have I put into my body that's nourishing? And really looking at that, and looking at when you use that language, it seems, at least for me, it's changed kind of how I'm viewing what I'm cooking and what I'm eating. And then
Mhm.
it makes it a little bit easier to say no. If you're like, you know what, that's not going to serve me. The thing that I really value about what I've learned in Ayurveda is that it takes, a full cycle, a 30-day cycle, for the nutrition that you take in the body to reach all of your tissues. And I want that nutrition to hit all 7 of my tissues, all of my dhatus. I don't want that nutrition to burn out in my stomach because I can't digest it. And it never even makes it to my bones or my hair or my nervous system or my fascia or create muscles, right? Like, I want you start with healthy blood and healthy plasma, and you work your way up. And I want that nutrition to get into my plasma and into my blood so that my body has the ability to build itself. And I think there's so many issues with digestion. And it's kind of profound when you think about it this way. And it's really been blowing my own mind, which is, gosh, like, if I can't digest my food properly, then I'm actually not able to nourish all of these tissues in my body. And so understanding, like, that what we put in our body needs and wants to be nutritious, but it also wants to be processed effectively so it can get to all of the tissues.
That's a really interesting way to look at it. And I just wanted to add, I really like using the word, nutritious or nutrition. And I think of that too with my food a lot of times. And I know, and it can change, if you just in tune with your body, and or you ask, like, I can kind of tell, I can just feel, what I'm being drawn to. And a lot of times that satisfaction of feeling like you're doing something good for your body, it's more satisfying when you eat, you feel better. And I think, then it is easier to avoid what you're not feeling like that day. And I think as long as you're not saying, I can never ever have something, I find it much easier for me if I go day by day and kind of with what I'm feeling, what my body seems to be asking for. And, I can go through long periods of time being successful doing that. And, and then if you get out of balance, I'll notice the difference in maybe, having a craving. But as we're talking about food, and I love this idea, of thinking of it in different ways. But another aspect of taking care of yourself is movement. And I know that you're doing a lot with that right now. You're doing, the yoga, of course, and the block therapy now. And so I'm wondering if you can talk a little bit about what you have going on in those areas and what it might mean, to for listeners to kind of be familiar with what benefits we can get from doing like block therapy or yoga.
Yeah. Well, I'm not a fitness buff, right? And I've been practicing yoga for about 17 years. So I've been practicing yoga a really long time.
Mm-hmm.
I was never practicing it like going to core power and like pounding.
Right.
I was doing it to heal my nervous system. I was doing it to support my spiritual practice. And when I went through my yoga teacher training, which was about 4 years ago now, I learned how important alignment was and how important it was to really understand how to do these postures correctly. And then in 2020, of course, I met Deanna Hansen. I learned about block therapy, and all of a sudden I'm blocking and I can do these postures correctly because the block is creating space and openness and flexibility. And so there's a linear piece to the movement, and then there's a non-linear. So the linear piece to the classes I'm teaching is I'm teaching what I like to call Indigo Flow. So you'll see that kind of sprinkled in places. But it's a combination of alignment yoga and block therapy. And it's really, I select 1 or 2 postures that I really want to focus on, or a few postures in yoga that focus on a specific area. It kind of depends on the class. And we really block in the areas that need the opening and the space and the release in order to do those postures correctly. And so it's really a blend of alignment yoga and block therapy. I'm teaching them at my home studio on Saturdays at 10:30. I am also live streaming that Saturday class to my VIPs in the portal. So that's only $24 a month. And I'm going to be adding some other things starting in June for the VIPs with the block therapy and the yoga piece. And I have several videos in the portal also. But my focus with movement is very tantric in nature. It's about consciousness. And it's really about working the body to clear out toxins and to create flexibility and movement where there wasn't before. Mm-hmm. And so that's the linear piece. It is absolutely for everyone. It is not something you're going to walk into and feel like you can't do it, no matter your age or shape or any of those things. No matter if you've never tried yoga or block therapy before, you'll be fine in my classes. They're very easeful. And I do include meditation and breath work in these classes as well. The nonlinear piece of yoga and block therapy, of course, I mean, yoga is thousands of years old, and block therapy is brilliant. But the nonlinear piece is we're creating space to receive light codes from the photon belt, right? There's solar flares and light codes and Kundalini awakenings. And as spiritual beings, we have these incredible spiritual experiences, and then we have to integrate those into our body. And the block is the only embodiment tool, in my opinion, the only one. And I do have an intention in all of my classes that we're clearing space to hold more light, to become that light body. And I'm not doing anything but blocking and some strength training right now and some walking, hiking with my dog and my husband. And I've lost weight. I have rotation and motility in my shoulders I've never had. My posture's different. I've had changes in my energy field. I've had Kundalini awakenings. Like it's amazing. Like physically, I feel good and different and better, but spiritually, I'm also experiencing profound shifts. So I would say my movement classes are unique because anyone can do them and it's a spiritual practice. And really that's what yoga is. It's the union, right? It means to yoke. And to me, the union is the union of spirit coming into the body to be the conduit for that here on the planet.
That's really a beautiful thought. And I did yoga for years and years, and I loved it. I'm out of practice of doing it at the present time. The block therapy, I really like one of my favorite things is the initial pose, if that's the right word, where you just start by laying, on the block, on your abdomen. I always feel like I could just stay like that for such a long time because it immediately relaxes me, and I feel in a very meditative state when I'm doing that. I really like to do that for calming down, even if I'm not doing the rest of the um, the session at that time. If you just grab the block and do that particular pose with it. And so I agree with you. It both yoga and block therapy, and I love that your indigo flow. That I love the way you're saying that, and it does sound like it wouldn't be anything you know difficult for somebody to step into at any level. And I also like that it's not what a lot of people think about with exercise, is that pounding the body type of thing, where you have to really, do some really kind of intense, I almost feel like you're damaging your body sometime. You have to be pounding the ground or doing something. And, I can see where that can be a release too and feel good. But I know when I was doing yoga all the time and now the block therapy, I find it, not just physically beneficial, but I really do feel like it's an opening to, meditation and letting that sort of divine flow come in. So I could imagine that the class sounds, just listening to you talk about it, sounds relaxing to me and beneficial.
Well, here's the thing is, everything, my slogan or whatever you want to call it for Indigo Flow is it's a lifestyle for the sensitive. And I think those of us who are empathic, sensitive, maybe experience trauma, have challenges with our health and our body. I mean, these are the people that I work with. And we have had enough done to our nervous system. So to be intense isn't always the best answer.
Right.
And I think there's times I teach a class and I think, okay, like we're going to go a little harder, but we're never going to do a full vinyasa. I guess I should never say never, but we likely won't do a full vinyasa in any of my classes because that's not necessary. What's necessary is opening and creating space, receiving light, and eliminating toxins. So, the block is a natural autophagy tool, and that is really important for those of us who need it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and everybody finds it's just like eating. I mean, there are a lot of people that running or doing something that seems a little more strenuous really does work for them. But I also think, there needs to be this alternative so that you're not afraid to actually, participate because you think you can't keep up. And,
Yes.
you need something that is a little more suited. And I feel like, that's a very attractive point to the indigo flow. So I'm glad to see that you're that you're working in that area. For anyone listening, I would advise them to give it a try because I'm sure it would be very beneficial. those, both things, the culinary, the cooking, the movement, the stress level, I think for people, just keeping up with daily life, it, can be very stressful. Right now, I think, we're at a collective high stressful period. Um, you can just kind of feel it seeping into your body, and I think it's really good to know these types of practices and types of things that we can do that are everyday things, and they're simple and they're healing for us. Um, it's really nice if we can focus on something like that. And and I'll add in creativity because you know how I feel about that, and I know you're the same way. And I think these things like cooking is very creative.
Very. Yeah.
Movement is very creative. So I really like that aspect of it, the creativity aspect. Um, Lisa, we are going to wind up. I know we could talk about a lot more things because you have so many things going on that I would love to dive into. But I do want to make sure I have the Buddhist Biohacker website under the video. But if you want to tell people if there's any other way, to get in touch with you, I'm going to give you a minute to go ahead and say some of the things you have going on and how to reach you.
Absolutely. So my website is BuddhistBiohacker.com. My YouTube is Buddhist Biohacker. Instagram, Facebook, all of those things are Buddhist Biohacker. And my most exciting project right now and what I want to share is, I really want to be the destination for personal transformation. And I have been working very hard on my mobile app, and it's been a lot of work, and it's going to relaunch on mobile on June 7th. So if you're interested in being a part of this launch, absolutely get on my website and get on my mailing list. I'll probably get some kind of landing page up for everybody for the launch itself, so you guys can be first ones in. But it's unbelievable. And the thing is, like, I've been creating these experiences so that you can go in and explore these topics. And I have so many topics. It's so crazy, but like food frequency, cooking, meditation, spiritual development, divination, yoga, block therapy, ancestral healing, shamanic practices. I mean, I get goosebumps. Like, there's so much in my Buddhist Biohacker portal, which will be the mobile app. And it's so rich, and you can dive into anything you want to because it's all of it. I know a lot of people are like, oh, you're doing so many things and I can't follow it. And what I want to assure you is it all goes together. How you eat, how you move, affects how you meditate and how your third eye opens and how you get connected with yourself. Like, all of these things go together. And I have created a space that I feel is going to hold this incredible gift to yourself, this gift to yourself. And I've tried to make things as accessible as possible. And like I said, it's $24 a month. It's $245 a year. To be in this space, and it's really profound. I've been working on it this week. I've had an incredibly inspired, creative week since we're here on this show about creativity. And I've just created these mini escapes for everybody. And there's more to come because I want to be your escape from the noise. There's so many people telling us how to eat, how to live, how to move, how to do readings. And honestly, I don't want to tell you all that. I want you to learn what feels good to you. And I really want to hold space so that you have no excuses because you have 3 minutes to sit on a block, even if it's only 3 minutes.
Right.
Or to be inspired by a soundbite or to be connected. And I'm just lit up because I've had such a profound week with this. But that's what I want to share with everybody is maybe it seems like a lot or it seems overwhelming, but it's really just connecting in with what feels good and bringing these modalities together because it's integrative. They work together in order to create personal transformation. And that's what we all want.
Right. Yeah, I really like that. And, I was thinking you don't have to feel overwhelmed because once you step into that space, you find the thread that you're most attracted to, that you're drawn to, and then you can go out and explore. It's not like you have to take on everything at once. And, I really like that. And of course, it's all under personal transformation, which is so important. And we're all seeking that, as you said, and I know all the work that you put into it, and I know what's behind it. So I know that anybody that steps in there is going to be totally amazed and just find it healing, beneficial, and a great place to connect with other people that are, in the light. And that's so important right now. So I just want to, guide everybody to keep an eye out for that, keep following you and participate in it because it will be beneficial. I know I don't have as much as many like things going on, but just building my YouTube channel and trying to think, what do I want to put out there? I do these little imagination starters, and it was reminding me of your, mini escape kind of thing. It's just very brief, but I have a friend who's written a number of poems based on the imagination starters, and it's just very simple. But it's like a tiny little break. It doesn't take you much time, but you don't know where it's going to lead you. And I love that, about imagination and creativity. And so opening ourselves up to just go ahead and take a chance, give it a try, start where you're drawn and build from there. So I just want to recommend everything you have going on to everyone who listens because I know I've, been on the receiving end of a lot of it and I know your work. So
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me on.
I want to thank everybody for tuning in. Please keep in touch. Let us know what you're looking for, how we can help. And coming up on the end of the month, I think it's the 26th or 27th, Thursday, I'm going to have Melinda Joy Miller on. And I think you'll like this, Lisa. We're going to be talking about shamanic gardening.
Ooh, nice.
Book out on that. So she's all about nutrition and some of the things that we were talking about. So I think that's going to be another interesting episode. So I want to welcome everybody back to that show. Please keep it in mind and follow Lisa. And Lisa, thank you so much for being here. I loved having you on as always. And have a good day, everyone. Thank you for joining. Bye.
Bye, everyone.